Sweet Pain Corky Gunn. How's everything going today?
Oh, pretty good, man. I'm trying to let me get you back where you were here. There you go. Good, man. Where are you located?
New Jersey.
Jersey, gotcha.
Yep, the toll state. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. I grew up in New York, so New Jersey and New York are like the same thing, really. In
Yeah,
in a in a way.
yeah. You know. Except them, the prices of the go over a bridge now. Forget it, like $40.
Yeah,
Not good.
yeah. I live in New Mexico now, so you know,
You're lucky.
yeah, there's no tolls.
Well, Sweet Pain. Congratulations on the new release, and really, that album came out basically in what, 85, self-titled.
85, it was released on vinyl and cassette, never on CD.
Right. Wow, wow. And you were on Combat. Wasn't that a little bit heavier label?
Yes. So the story there is Combat was the label was formed as a metal label, an offshoot of their other label, Relativity Records.
Uh-huh.
Relativity later on had Satriani and Steve Vai and all that stuff.
Right.
But it was a record distributor that I worked at that dealt with import music. And then they started distributing and manufacturing and pressing Megaforce and
Right.
Metallica records. And they started doing deals with Metal Blade. And then they started their own label, Combat, as a heavy thrash kind of label. The owner of the company and I were friends, and they were trying to sign a glam band, and
Uh-huh.
everybody in LA was signed, and there wasn't any Guns N' Roses or Faster Pussycat yet, and the New York bands tended to be more Johnny Thunders kind of junky vibe, and they didn't want any of that stuff.
Right.
So he said to me, you should just start a band.
Right.
I'm like, I've never been in a band.
Uh-huh.
What would I do? He goes, I don't know. Can you play guitar? I go, no. He goes, well, you just be the singer. And that's really how it started. It was, they wanted a piece of the glam market,
Right.
and they were pressing so many records. To press another, I don't know, 5,000 of something was no big deal.
Right.
Low budget.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, I know most of them labels because I was a photographer for a magazine called Metal Forces Magazine, and we covered a lot of Combat, Megaforce, stuff like that. I mean, heavier stuff. But what was good about the magazine, we also had a separate section, like 2, 3 pages of new glam bands. So like we covered metal, and then like the glam bands would have 2, 3 pages, and they would send in their cassette demos, and they would be reviewed. So like it was all around a great magazine to work for at the time. You know.
I remember that magazine. I believe that Sweet Pain was in there at one point.
I'm sure they were.
I think there was a picture. I don't know. I can't remember exactly, but I remember that magazine very well.
Right. Yeah.
In those days, pre-internet,
Uh-huh.
magazines were everything. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I knew them all pretty well. But yeah, that was, again, this release is like, it's not a huge deal in a
Right.
sense, but the bass player in Sweet Pain, Kelly Nichols, went on to be in LA Guns.
Right.
And they re-recorded the song "Shoot for Thrills," which Sweet Pain did, and then LA Guns did on their first album.
Right.
The drummer in Sweet Pain went on to be in a band called the Throbs that were on Geffen.
Right. Yep. Yep.
So there's things that if you're into the glam scene, it's like it's like one of those items that has been on vinyl. People sell the vinyl for $50 on eBay and
Yeah.
stuff. But there's never on CD. So I remixed it back in the 90s. I remixed this record, remastered it, added bonus material and some live stuff. And I was never really working hard to get it released.
Right.
And then I started talking to Dave Tedder, and he said, I want to put it out. I was like, okay. So I had it all ready to go. I just gave him the parts, and he pressed it. I believe it's coming out on vinyl too. I don't know when though.
Uh-huh.
On a new pink vinyl he's pressing.
Cool, cool. Yeah, because I'm reading it. It says coming out on CD, album, and limited edition. So maybe the limited edition is the colored vinyl.
I think so. I don't have a time frame on that. I know he sold out of his first run of CDs and he's waiting for more to come back in. But it's one of those things that was so long ago. I like, like I said, I remixed this and got it together to press in the 90s. So
Right.
it's been a long time and it's finally coming out. And if you're into it, it's exciting for you, I guess. It's like another lifetime for me.
Cool, cool. Now is this on 20th Century Music or on Vanity Music?
I think it's on 20th Century through the Vanity Music Group.
Right.
Uh, but I think it's on 20th Century is the actual label name.
Cool, cool. Like back in the day, when you look at back in the day compared to now, what's your vision of how music changed so much?
Oh well, I mean, it's there's no more record companies really in the sense of the big guys. So
Right.
there's no more making people stars. Those days are over. So it's like you're a celebrity
Right.
based off of other things. Some people are, could be a musician that you're more of a celebrity than a rock star. There's no more machine.
Right.
When the internet and streaming and all this stuff started, everybody was like, oh, we don't need record companies anymore. I go, well, that's true. But if you want to be a star where the whole world knows you, you need a record company that's going to put millions of dollars behind you.
Right.
So that's what's missing. And that's why the music industry is like really there really is no more music industry in my eyes. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, there's bands and there's people that play and go out on the road and stuff, but it's not like there's no more radio.
Right.
So that's what made Starz was the machine. And without the machine, I don't care how good you are, no one's going to know who you are outside of small market.
Right. Right. Um, I don't understand the one thing that the today's day, like you could get the album before even the artist release it from a download. What do you appreciate more, vinyl or download?
Well, I mean, I'm almost 64 years old. So, vinyl is always has a place in my heart. I've got a pretty extensive vinyl collection. I don't listen to it very often though, because it's, once in a while I'll throw a record on, but I'm a music guy. I constantly listen to music. I'm always discovering old things I missed. And I usually get all that from streaming on Spotify or whatever. I mean, it's just so
Right.
easy. It's on
Yeah.
my phone. So stream it to a Bluetooth speaker and there you go. But I'm a vinyl guy at heart. But I don't listen to vinyl as much because it's not as easy to do.
Right. Yeah. 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 And you have to have a turntable,
Yes, I've got old 70s gear, turntable amp speakers and stuff, So I mean, it's there if I want to listen to it, but I just sometimes will just pull a record out and just look at it, and
Yeah.
hold it, not even play it.
Yeah.
Because now it's so easy with Spotify. I make my own playlists and you stream them to the car, and it's a lot easier.
Right.
But no one's making money off of Spotify, that's for sure. No
Yeah.
bands are. It's micro pennies.
Right. Yeah. 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 Let's go down some of the tracks of on the album and stuff like that, and tell me, your perception of the songs back in the day, what that meant to you. So let's go to "I Get My Kicks."
So, this band was manufactured in a sense. It was
Right.
put together very quickly. Songs were written very quickly and recorded very quickly.
Right.
All that was done before the band even played a show.
Wow.
So it was just a really weird thing because it was, calculated to let's put out a glam record.
Right.
So I Get My Kicks is probably my favorite of all of them. It was done really quickly. I mean, it was just, it's very hard to understand that. It's like there was no germinating. There was no, let's, come back in a couple weeks and write a melody line. Or it was just like bang, bang, bang. Let's just do this. And it was very punk rock in its approach. So I Get My Kicks is I'll tell you a quick story. Years later, I went on to work for LA Guns. I was their road manager in '88.
Uh-huh.
And, the singer in LA Guns, Phil Lewis, was in a band called Girl.
Yeah, I know them very well.
Right, with Phil Collin from Def Leppard. So one night, Phil Collin was hanging out on the tour bus somewhere, and somehow Sweet Pain got mentioned. And he's like, oh, that's that crazy glam band. He's like, we used to listen to that song, I Get My Kicks, before we went on stage. It was like the Beastie Boys before the Beastie Boys, kind of. And I was like shocked. I was like, really? And Kelly Nichols says, well, there's a singer right over there. And he couldn't believe it. So that's probably the most well-known, really, I would say, of the Sweet Pain songs. Get My Kicks, pressed up a 45 record, back then. And they sent it to the radio stations. But I mean, it was, you got college metal play at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But that was, that's probably my favorite of all of those songs, is that one.
Cool. How about Down on the Boulevard?
Again, written quickly, recorded quickly. It's all I can say is if you just listen to it and you'll get the vibe. I mean, the band was like very unusual for the time. You're talking '85, you're talking Iron Maiden and Yngwie Malmsteen, and Motley Crue was out, and we were like Kiss meets the Sex Pistols. It was very weird combination of influences in that band. But Down on the Boulevard is just, it is what it is. Down on the Boulevard, go out and find a girl kind of thing.
Right. Cool. How about that? Wow. Cool. How about Back in L.A.?
Back in L.A. was written by the guitar player, Adrian Vance. It was basically about going out to L.A. and, taking advantage of what was going on out there, as opposed to living in Long Island,
Cool. How about Knock Your Socks Off?
Same, just, sex type of, lyrics or whatever. It's about partying with girls.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Like when you were doing the LA Strip and stuff like that, what other bands were also playing during that time?
Well, we never played in LA.
Okay.
The band's life was probably about a year and a half.
Right.
We played all over the New York area, and then, played Pittsburgh and Cleveland, and did some little shows outside of New York, but it wasn't very extensive. Our biggest shows were at Lemoore East in Queens, on Queens Boulevard. We would pack that place out because we were local.
Right.
But I mixed this record out in LA in '84 with a guy named Randy Burns, who mixed all the combat thrash stuff, Possessed and all that stuff. He was the resident mixer. I think they had him on like a retainer. They were putting out so many records, he just mixed everything. So I went out there and mixed it. I think we mixed it in like 2 days.
Right.
We recorded it in 2 days and mixed it in 2 days. Very, very fast. But to me, that's the charm of what it was. It's very raw. It wasn't polished. And at that time, in '85, if you needed, everybody was trying to be polished.
Right.
We didn't want to be polished. We were more into, the rawness of it all.
Right.
But I mean, years later I was out in LA when I worked for LA Guns, and I moved out there, and, it was a different scene then. I was '88, '85. I mean, who was big in '85? Motley, Rat.
Yeah.
Poison was starting to happen, and Guns N' Roses didn't really start till like '86. But it was just, we were a New York band, and we were, we kind of, you could kind of tell that, I mean, the LA bands were, for the most part, it was kind of wimpy in a sense of who they were as people. It was not like in New York, it's much tougher. You from New Jersey, so you understand the East Coast vibe there. LA is was like, lightweight to us, to me.
What's your feeling about music these days?
I mean, there really is none. I mean, I mean, there's, it's just, if you were lucky enough to be, I was born in 1960. If you were lucky enough to have lived through the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s musically, I mean, there's nothing that compares. I mean,
Right.
I'm not knocking any bands that are out there working hard and trying and everything, but like it was just a golden period, man. From the 50s to the 90s, that's the music that was made in those decades will never die.
Right.
And and today it's just, you could be really talented, but you're just not given the opportunity to
Right.
get your stuff out there on, globally. Sure, there's, I don't know, country artists. I mean, country music isn't even country music anymore. It's like rap. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's just like, it's all designed to sell a product, clothes or a fashion line, or it's just, the heart of it all is gone to
Right.
me. I mean, occasionally I'll hear something, they'd be like, wow, that's pretty good, but then you'll never hear about it again.
Right.
Because like I was saying earlier, you need that machine to get the world to pay attention to you.
Right.
And if you're not, I don't know, rap star or something, it's like,
Right.
it's, and I don't say this to discourage people from trying, but unfortunately you weren't born in the right era, really.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Music. It's just, I'm a song guy, so I'm about songs. If you have songs, you'll last, or you can get attention. But most, it's all computerized stuff. It's just, again, people go, oh, you're old. I go, well, I am, but like, I saw so many great bands. I mean,
Yeah.
lived through so much. And my first concert was 1974, Leonard Skinner. So I mean, I've seen everybody. I saw the Sex Pistols in Atlanta in '78. I mean, I've seen a lot. And I worked at Limelight nightclub in New York for 8 years as a DJ at Rock and Roll Church, and I mean, everybody played there. You just see so much music. And if you've lived that life and you look at today, I mean, I live, there's a lot of indigenous lands around where I live, and there's casinos. So there's a casino close to me, and, who's playing there? I don't know, Molly Hatchet and April Wine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's nobody in those bands that's original. There's completely no original members.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So what it's become is tribute bands. It's a tribute band thing. And if you own the rights to the name, you can get into a casino. So, but it's a tribute band. There's nobody original.
Right.
So it's just like, it's like an oldie circuit. It's like when I was a teenager going to see Kiss, you'd have the oldies show at the Garden, Perry and Jerry Lee Lewis, and that's kind of what it is now. It's like oldies stuff in the casinos.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking it, but how can you have a band with not one original member? Jefferson Starship is another one that's playing.
Right.
Not one original member from the band. I mean, it's, okay. I mean, most people though don't know that.
Right.
And don't care
until they get to the show.
They might not even know. I mean, Stephen Pearcy from Rat is playing the casino. He's, I think, the only original guy, but he's the singer, so that's good. People, and then he's also playing. It's Stephen Pearcy's Rat and Quiet Riot.
Right.
I don't think there's anybody in Quiet Riot that was in Quiet Riot originally. So
Yeah.
It is what it is. All you have left, man. So if you're 18 or 20 years old, it's like me going to see Deep Purple in 1978, and Richie Blackmore's not there. Ian Gillan's not there. It's the same thing. It's like, it's just now and as time marches on, people keep passing away. There'll be nobody left in 25 years. It just, you'll be left with, Mariah Carey and Justin Bieber. I mean, there'll be nobody left. I'm not knocking them, but the golden age is gone, man. So I go backwards. I go backwards and I discover music or jazz or whatever that I've
Right,
never gotten into. There might not be a lot going forward to listen to, but there's certainly plenty going backwards.
right, yeah. I mean, most of them shows I would never go to myself, right? The closest I would get is probably REO Speedwagon because Cronin's still there. Now they just broke up too, so no more REO Speedwagon. And the other band is Styx. I mean, Tommy Shaw is like you know, fantastic still and stuff like that. I'd go see that. But like other bands you mentioned that have no members, why am I going? You know,
Exactly.
why am I going? You know,
I saw Styx. I don't know. It was, I think it was Def Leppard or Styx, and I can't remember. It was probably about, I don't know, 8 years ago or so. And man, Styx were great. I don't
yeah,
know if Tom Shaw was in the band. He probably was.
right.
Um, I don't think the original. What's the singer's name?
Um, I know
The
who you're talking about.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
don't think
remember.
he was in there.
Yeah,
Uh, but they sounded great. I mean, but look, if you've got at least one guy, you're okay, you know. But like to have
right,
no guys is like, what's the
right,
point?
yeah, yeah. I think that's Dennis DeYoung.
Dennis DeYoung, yeah, he wasn't there, but they sounded great, man. They
Right.
really. And I think Tommy Shaw and the other guy, what's the other guitar player?
Yeah, I
The
know who you're talking about.
Tom
Yeah,
guy, yeah, he was there. But you know, it's like Journey. I mean, you got Neil Schon, you got Jonathan Cain, and you got the guy that sings now, who's good.
yeah, yeah.
But if you don't have Neil Schon, at least you can't be Journey.
Right,
So,
yeah,
but he's in the band and Jonathan Cain. So, you know, they're keeping the flame alive as much as they can.
right.
Um, you know, and people, I guess, still want to go see it because they're touring. If they weren't making money, no one would be booking them. So
Exactly.
they're doing okay, I guess.
Yeah. What would you recommend if a band came to you and said, can you give me any recommendations on going into music?
I don't know, man. I hate to mislead people and give them false hope. It's like, you know, it's like, I don't know. What do you want to be? Do you want to be a songwriter? Do you want to be a guitar player? Do you want to be what do you want to be? What do you want to do? I
Right.
couldn't even imagine what to tell a rock band today, how to get noticed.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. You would have to do something completely outrageous
Right.
to
Yeah.
make the news. The music would be secondary to getting attention. So that's the world we live in. Get attention, and the music is secondary. I don't
Right.
know. I would be like, I don't know, man. Just, you know, I would say to somebody, if you could write songs, move to Nashville, write songs and sell them to people, or you know, give them to people and make money from songwriting.
Right.
Uh, I mean, but playing in a band, you know, I don't know. Unless you're you could listen. You could be a hired gun guitar player and play
Right.
with, I don't know, Madonna, whoever,
Right.
and make a good living.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, so if you want to do that, there's definitely avenues. But being noticed as a band, it's like, to me, it's like a waste of time today.
Now, yeah. So many people wish that glam would make a resurgence and come back. I mean, there's so many websites now just on glam music, Facebook sites just on glam music. That had to make a huge impact in the world, being part of a glam band.
Yeah, I mean, the whole glam thing was like, you know, the resurgence started with the M3 festival in Rocklahoma, and then
Right,
you had Motley Crue movie The Dirt. So I think what people are searching for in following all of that, if you're 20 years old today, you know, you look back at those times as being a lot freer and fun, and it was, you know, it was just the last days of just, you know, pre 9/11.
right,
You know, it was the last days of having fun and being loose and wild and crazy, and a lot of it is dress up. I was saying to somebody the other day, when I was in high school, you know, 1976, Happy Days was huge, and there was a
right,
huge 50s revival going on. 50s, everybody, you know, we had 50s day at school, everybody dressed like Fonzie, and
right, yeah,
it was dress up. So it's a lot of it is, especially with the women, a lot of it is dress up to try to look like and emulate girls from music videos and all that. And it's
right,
like a combination of like a fantasy dress up thing
right,
mixed with an era that was you know, debauchery and just craziness. And it was pre-internet, pre-cell phone, all that, you know, so it was just a much freer time. And I think they want to go back, and they wish they could go back, but of course you can't.
Right.
It's, you know, you're searching for a time that is no different from, you know, being in the 70s, late 70s, and, you know, people would romanticize, you know, the 60s and Woodstock. And, you know,
Right.
it was like, I was too young to be there. So it was like, you romanticize that. So it's the same kind of thing. I think it's just nostalgia for a time and a place that doesn't exist that seemed like a lot of fun.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Now with Sweet Pain, how excited were you when, you know, people actually wanted to still hear Sweet Pain on vinyl and stuff like that? That you know, you're not making a comeback, but I mean, your music's making the comeback to younger kids now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, I mixed it. I prepared this thing to be released back in the mid '90s, so early '90s. So and it's been so long, and it's never happened. And it's like once it did happen, I'm like, you know, I was surprised. Like, okay, he actually wants to put it out. So I'm happy or excited for the people that want to hear it, you know, or people that know the L.A. Gun song "Shoot for Thrills." Here's the original version, you know, or what was Kelly Nichols' first band, or for that reason, it's like history.
Right.
So I'm excited for that. But personally, it's like so long ago, you know. There's a saying, people, some people know a version of you that doesn't exist anymore,
Right.
and that's not me anymore. It's a whole lifetime ago. But these younger kids that are excited about it, it's great for them, you know.
Right. Okay. So what do you do now?
Nothing.
Nothing. You sound like me.
Yeah, I live in New Mexico, and I am really isolated. You know, it's an hour drive to the supermarket. So I'm on solar power, you know, I'm off the grid. I'm like, I've lived a wild life. I grew up in New York, you know, it was a very rough and tumble scene I came out of. I've lived in LA, I've lived in Georgia, I've lived in Florida. So I've experienced a lot of insanity in my life. And,
Right.
you know, and now I'm at a point where I don't want to, I really don't want to see anybody. So
Right.
I'm out here in the middle of nowhere by choice. Now, would I have wanted to be out here in 1985? Yeah, I wouldn't have been here 5 minutes. I would have left. So everybody in their life goes through phases, and you change, and you, what you need in your life changes. And this is what I'm happy with now. So, you know, I like being just quiet out here. I do a lot of writing. I, you know, I have a book that I wrote that it's out, called Tales from the Gutter. It's on Amazon. It's about my life in music, that I put together over COVID on lockdown. I pulled out all my journals and diaries and short stories, and I put together this book, and I released it last year. So I do a lot of writing. I'm working on a screenplay. I do a lot of stuff to keep me busy, but I'm not in, you know, I'm not in the cycle of living in a town and all that stuff. I don't go to shows. I go to the supermarket and come home. So that's about it, really. I mean, I'm happy to just, you know, sit out here in the quiet and just, you know, watch the eagles fly around. It's what's good for me now.
Right.
You know, not for everybody, because, you know, some of my friends in New York are like, an hour to the supermarket. I'm like, yeah. They're like, wow, I couldn't do that. You know, no DoorDash. I'm like, exactly. There's no DoorDash. So, you know, but everybody's got their own life and lives their own way they want to live. You know, it's to each his own, as they say, you know.
Right. Yeah, I just retired in February, and like you said, you're 64,
Yeah, about to be.
right? I'll be
Yeah.
66.
Okay.
So like in December. So like my time since I retired is doing a lot more interviews because I own a website. I also get to help out younger bands and stuff like that that need a little bit of exposure. and stuff, and I just enjoy it. So otherwise, I don't do nothing either except cook, clean, and shop.
That's it. Well, you know, living off the grid and everything. I mean, I've got a water well and solar panels and all that. So when you live like this, there's no shortage of things to do.
Right.
It's like living on a farm almost. You have to maintain, and you've got to, you know, make sure that the arroyo doesn't overflow with water and flood you. You know, there's all kinds of stuff that you have to do that keeps you busy. But yeah, man, being retired, since you know you retired, you're doing what you enjoy and love, and you're helping people, and you're having fun with the website and enjoying yourself, and that's what you're supposed to do when you retire,
Oh, yeah.
is enjoy yourself, you know.
Cool, cool. So, what was your favorite time in music? And tell me what's the favorite thing you ended up doing during your music career.
My favorite thing I ended up doing, well, I started out this whole journey. I was a nightclub DJ.
Okay.
I was a senior in high school. My dad had an after hours nightclub. So I was the DJ in this after hours club. I started at 2 a.m. and I finished about noon the next day.
Right.
And that set me on a path of working in bigger clubs. And I met record company people. And then I started working for the record distributor IRD, which then birthed Combat and Relativity. I worked there, and I was DJing at the same time. And I ended up, you know, working for LA Guns, and you know, so I've done a lot, but I really at heart I was always into being a DJ in a club. You know, when it meant something, you know, I mean, I worked at a club in Lido Beach, Long Island called Malibu that held 3,000 people. And they had, you know, B-52s, U2, all those bands played there. And man, that was the best. I again, the drinking age was 18 still. So it was just a wild time. And out of that same scene, you had the early Twisted Sister, which you probably know, played all the bars and clubs in Jersey and Fountain Casino and all that stuff. So, you know, if I wasn't DJing, I was going to see Twisted Sister. Or I was going into Manhattan. There was a band called the Brats that used to play.
Yes, I know. Yep. Yeah.
Man, that's all we did. I'd DJ and I'd go to see bands. And that was, you know, I really had no direction other than I wanted to be a DJ, and I love rock and roll. So that was just a fun time, man. That was like 79, 78, 79, 80 in there.
Right.
You know, and then the late 70s were special time because you had disco was huge. I was never a disco fan, but I love nightclubs. Right. And I was a disco DJ. So you had disco, punk, all happening at the same time.
Right.
In the late 70s were a magical time for music. I mean, if you really think about it. You know, and then when did the first Van Halen come out? 78?
Yeah.
Late 70s into like 80, 81 was just incredible time musically. Cool. There was so much happening.
Yep. I got a chance to photograph Twisted Sisters at a club called Mothers.
Yeah.
And then, and then I photographed LA Guns at Limelight.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
So that I must have been there. What year was
that?
You
probably were, because
88?
It must have. It had to be late 80s. Yep, I photographed them. I got some of their pictures up on my Facebook site and stuff like that. So I photographed them. That's when they had you know, Bill Collins wasn't in the band, but Lewis was there. Lewis, he was, you know, and Tracy.
They played Limelight. That was the original band in '88. They played Limelight in October of '88. Then they came back and played a couple more times. The last time they played there was '92.
Right.
But it was always the original band. Yeah, I mean, that was, you know, Limelight was it was an incredible club.
Right.
But Twisted Sister, Mothers in Wayne, New Jersey. Yeah, I mean, you know, that was, to me, there was no heavier, tighter band than Twisted Sister. I mean,
they were great.
In their peak, man, they blow your head off.
Yep.
They were so many people that know who they are now, which is great. You know, Twisted Sisters bigger than they ever were, but people don't know the club scene, like what went on, you know.
Yeah.
Doing 3-4 sets a night, 5 nights a week. It was like, They were great. I love that era of Twisted Sister.
Me too. Well, Corky, it was great talking to you, and an experience and a learning experience for me at least. So
I appreciate you having me on, man. It's been great chatting with you, and you're from Jersey, which makes me I feel a little bit more at home.
go. Would you like to say anything to the people out there?
Hey, if you want to find out more about what I have going on, start with my Instagram account, 1985 Road Dog. And then there's a link there to my link tree with the link to my book, how to buy my book, and my YouTube channel and all that stuff. So 1985 Road Dog's my Instagram, best place to find out what's going on with me. And I appreciate everybody listening and taking the time to check it out.
Cool. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
You too. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye-bye.